good evening. Welcome to Mindset Shifts and the What Ifs. I'm your host, Lauren Lefkowitz, and I am sitting here and laughing at myself because I joined the live at the allotted time, 7:05, and you can see that I'm starting now at 7:11 p.m. Eastern, which is not 7:05, because I thought I was live and I was not. And so I had hit the go live button. I was ready to go. I started talking. Perfect. And the button on Restream said go live again. And I just double checked and I was in fact not live, but now I am. So perfectionism is our topic tonight, and perfectionism just goes right on out the window. And we just have to laugh about it because otherwise we cry, and that's a lot less fun. So welcome. If you are joining me tonight, come say hi in the chat. I am live on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and maybe Instagram. I'm trying Instagram for the first time through Restream. So if you're joining me on Instagram and you're seeing me, come say hi so that I know that you can see me and that I am live. And if you don't see me on Instagram, then, maybe next week. But I'm glad to have you here with me. If you are just stumbling upon me for the first time or you don't know me well, I am Lauren Lefkowitz. I'm an executive coach, and I believe fine is a trap. Fine is what we say when things are so totally not fine. But if we tell people we're not fine, if we express that we're not fine, if we tell ourselves that we're not fine, we might just fall apart. And that we do not allow for ourselves. And so with my clients who are mostly corporate executives and corporate leaders or corporate professionals who are heading to the leadership track, I tell them when they come in that they do not have to be fine with me. And we need to give ourselves permission to not be fine, to not be perfect, to not be pleasing, to be willing and able to set boundaries, and to be able to figure out what fine even means and what we actually want, so that we can get ourselves to a place where we're better than fine, where we're actually having like a freaking amazing time most of the time. And so I work with clients who have gotten stuck in this fine trap, in this way of being where they get up every day with a sigh, where they get up every day feeling like, I'm never going to please everybody, but I will die trying. I had a client I was talking to yesterday who said, I will die trying like 4 times at the beginning of our conversation. And part of our discussion is like, why are we trying so hard? So tonight in our conversation, every week when I talk about mindset shifts and the what ifs, I talk about the things that swirl in our heads, the things that we go down a spiral, wondering if things are going to be a certain way, if we can have what we want to have, if we can be who and how we want to be. And most of the time we're telling ourselves we can't. And so the mindset shift is really like, well, what if we can? What if it's different? What if the outcome is better? What if it's possible? Without being toxically positive about it, right? Because we don't want to get into this space where we're just sort of, cheerleading ourselves for things that don't feel realistic. So tonight's topic is perfectionism, which I think is lovely for the start that I had for tonight's live, which if you're just joining, I was scheduled to start at 7:05. I hit the go live button at 7:05. I did not go live, but I did start talking, and it took me about 5 minutes to recognize that I was actually not live. So I came in imperfectly, 5 minutes late, 6 minutes late to my own live. And former me, perfectionist me, I call myself a recovering perfectionist because my default still is always like, how can I get it right? How can I get it perfect? And so perfectionist me would have said like, well, you didn't get it right the first time. So put out an apology that you didn't go live and just don't do it. And you'll do it next week. And maybe you shouldn't do it at all anymore, because if you can't get it right, why do it at all? Well, realistic me, who lives in the here and now, still wanted to come live and still wanted to talk to you about perfectionism, and still wanted to stay committed to my show, even if it was starting a little bit late. And that is the beauty of taking steps towards something, right? So when we are perfectionists, we want to get it right. We want to do it in a way that makes everybody around us comfortable, in a way that delivers so that it looks like there's no way we could have gotten it wrong, so that we look capable and smart and strong and with it and together. And the truth is, none of us actually are, least of all perfectionists, because we are perfectionists, we work so hard to get it right so that nobody will think that we are any kind of incapable. And the truth is, the most successful people that I see, who are actually like comfortable in their own skin and comfortable in their own way of being, have tossed out perfectionism, or like me and like many of my clients, have taken perfectionism and taken it apart step by step. If you have not read the book by Brené Brown, and everybody has feelings about Brené Brown, they either love her or they absolutely dislike her. I adore her work. But if you haven't read The Gifts of Imperfection by Brené Brown, and you call yourself a perfectionist, or you don't use the word perfectionist, but you like to do things right, you don't like to make mistakes, you will quit if it's not going exactly the way you planned for it to go, or you will double down and work extra hard to make up for what you think are failings. It's such a great book to read, because it talks about the shame that comes with perfectionism and with our inability to get things perfect, which is a standard that mostly doesn't exist. And it asks these questions for you to dig in about where you see perfectionism in yourself, where it shows up, in what communities, in what surroundings, in what circumstances, and how to sort of take some control of it. And here's what perfectionism did for me, and does for a lot of my clients. In the positive, perfectionism meant that I almost always looked pretty good. I almost always came into a room prepared, studied, informed, having built relationships around me so that I didn't come in as a bulldozer, and with the ability to handle questions that seemed like they came off the cuff, because I knew how to manage a room. I knew how to work a room. How that looked to everybody else was, wow, Lauren's pretty easygoing. Like, she's got it together. She knows all her stuff. She keeps informed. She understands the business. How that worked for me was there was this sense of always like scurrying around and doing extra work so that I wouldn't be caught off guard, so that I wouldn't look stupid, so that people wouldn't think I was incapable, right? So the optics from the perspective of the outsider were positive and easygoing. I had a boss who I was working 80 to 100 hours at that company, and that boss had no idea, because I made it look easy. And on the flip side, I was working nights and weekends to make sure that everything was perfect for everyone. And it still, by the way, never was, because there is no such thing as perfection. That's like the big secret. So with my clients, it has come in the form of the above and beyond, the hand raising, the I'll do it, I'll pitch in, let me in the room, which in and of itself, ambition and go-getterism, like those are good things until they become disruptive in your life, until they become so much pressure because you're trying to get it exactly right that there's no way to get it right. Because if you're getting it right, then you're getting your life wrong, because your life feels fine. You keep saying you're fine, Like, don't ask me any deeper questions than that because I'll fall apart. So a lot of the people that I work with, a lot of the clients that I work with are perfectionists and people pleasers, self-proclaimed bad at boundaries, don't know how to say no, because they want to look capable. And we perfectionists equate capability with exactly right, with perfectionism, with doing it the right way. And I will tell you, like, there is nothing that makes me happier than getting something right, getting something centered, getting something perfectly aligned. And it doesn't always happen. And when it doesn't happen, I have had to learn, and my clients have had to learn, that that's okay too. And the best way to get a little bit of perspective on your perfectionism and how it's impacting you is to start noticing. When I work with clients, the very first thing that they say is like a list of things that they need to fix about themselves. And a lot of the time, what they actually need to fix isn't where we start, right? Like, most of the time we've tried to fix things on our own. We've tried to do it the right way, the perfect way. We've tried to fix things on our own and we haven't gotten it right. And I use right in quotes because there's not only one way that's right. And we almost like give up on ourselves because we think we're so good at so many things that if we can't get ourselves perfect, if we can't get ourselves right, there must not be a way to do it. So we think perfectionism is control, but it's actually the illusion of control, because we think if we make things perfect, we're in control, we've got it done. But we actually feel such a sense of being out of control that the only way to feel in control is to try to get all of the things perfect for everyone. And so a good tool, a good thing to try in your own workplace as you're working towards your own perfectionism is first start by recognizing, right? Noticing is the first step. It's not doing, it's not fixing, it's not making changes. It's stopping and pausing and noticing what's going on around you. When do you feel pressure? When do you feel like you're failing at something? What would happen if you failed at that thing? Oh my gosh, I was supposed to pre-print name tags for this meeting and I didn't pre-print them. If I forgot, I suddenly remembered I have to, and now I'm berating myself for not printing them, and I'm printing them and I'm getting it done, but it's 11 o'clock at night and I've had to go back into the office to do the printing. And ask yourself, what if I hadn't printed those name tags, right? I'm using a really simple example. The examples of perfectionism that I hear from my clients are often much more complex and involve more people and higher stakes. But for using a simple example, I like to then finish the story. What would have happened if we forgot name tags? What would have happened if there was a page missing from the report? What would have happened if we weren't prepared to answer all of these questions? What would have happened if we missed the company logo on the printed materials? What would be the consequence? And then what would happen? And then what would happen? And very often the consequence is nothing. The consequence is, oops, I made a mistake. Another way to think about it too is, what if someone else made that mistake? What if someone else had been responsible for printing those name tags and they hadn't printed them, and then we all get to the event and we don't have name tags? What would I have done? Would I have spent the day saying, well, gosh, Sandy is terrible at their job and they should never be trusted with anything again, and now I have to fix everything? No, absolutely not. What would have happened would be that somebody would need to fix it, right? We'd need to run to a Staples or back to the office if we're local to something, or find a printer or whatever it is and get those name tags ready, or get some Sharpies, right? And handwrite those name tags if we needed to. And If we're covering for someone else, if we're or helping someone to recover, we're generally very forgiving, very easy. How can I help? How can I pitch in? How can I make this better? Especially for my people pleasers, this becomes very true. If I see someone else making a mistake, so easy to go and say, like, how can I help? Hey, here's a suggestion. Hey, here's an idea. Hey, what if I ran and did this and took care of this? When it's us as perfectionists, we assume we need to fix it ourselves. We assume we're responsible for it. We assume that we should not ask somebody to help us fix our shortcoming, our perceived shortcoming. We assume that if we don't fix it without anybody noticing, we will be seen as incapable. So the next time that you see that you have this tie to perfectionism, that you're trying to do everything on your own, that you're trying to get everything sorted by yourself without asking for help, without having to tell anybody that something has gone awry, that something isn't working out the way that you had planned, I'm going to tell you, don't change anything, right? Because before you change something, just notice what happened. What was the situation? How did I feel? How did I fix it? What would have happened if I asked someone for help? What would have happened if somebody else had jumped in to fix it for me? And very often the answer is, I would have felt stupid. I would have felt small. I would have felt incapable. But the people around us are not looking for perfection from us. They're looking for real. They're looking for human. And there's nothing that makes a colleague feel more engaged with you if you're a perfectionist than you being willing to say, I need help. I can't do this by myself, or I can't fix this by myself. Can you help me? People are so eager to jump in and help somebody who is defined independent, self-defined independent, who is usually, really just good at all of the details and all of the bits and pieces and all of the coordination. To come and ask for help actually ends up typically being flattering for another person. And if you do some low stakes asking for help as a perfectionist, and you give yourself some opportunity to see what it is like to need something from someone else and get it, there's potential for you to start to see that perfectionism doesn't have to be this exhausting process and lonely process. So if any of this resonated with you, if you want to talk more about your own tie to perfectionism, if you want to talk about how perfectionism impacts your work life, send me a DM, set up a strategy call. Let's have a conversation about it. And if you have questions about perfectionism and you're watching this on the replay, feel free to put some questions in the chat, and I'll be happy to answer those in future posts or future lives. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. And I hope you've gotten something good out of this. And I will be back next week with another live. Have a great night.